You're going to showboat, knock down the shot.
For what his value is, it doesn't equate to winning basketball.
When you're talking about the greatest of greats, that's what you have to do. You have to nitpick.
We'll see you in the playoffs. We'll see you in the playoffs.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Tee 'em Up podcast. I want to thank you guys all for joining us as we are now, for a lot of the teams, a couple games now into the NBA season, getting things started. Jared, I know you've been watching a lot of basketball over the last few days. How you feeling, my man?
I'm just happy NBA basketball's back. Bulls basketball's back. I'm happy I can finally focus on something in sports that is not my Chicago Bears, because
I'm right there with
brutal.
You. I'm right there with
you. Basketball season came at the perfect time.
I'm right there with you, man. And, you know, to kind of our surprise, or I guess kind of to our enjoyment, both of our teams faced each other to kick off their season. That is the Bulls against the Heat. So, Jared, a lot of top NBA teams faced off against each other to kind of start this season. You know, the Warriors, Lakers, 76ers, Celtics. But, of course, the big game for us here on the TML podcast, that was the Heat at the Bulls. It wasn't a nationally televised game, but for us, we were definitely all ears. Chicago got the 116-108 win in South Beach. So, Jared, I'm going to let you go ahead. You can take your early season victory lap. What did you make of this game?
So I was actually really impressed for multiple reasons by multiple players in this game. I wasn't expecting to win this one for obvious reasons. I mean, the Heat are the better team, and Zach LaVine was not playing last night, or I'm sorry, a couple nights ago.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing issue with his knee, it seems like, which I will talk about at some later point. But focusing on the game, the Bulls were down for most of the game until they tied it up in the second half, and they really started to show fight. That third quarter, they were rolling, and I was so happy to see. As we've seen at times with the Bulls last season, they kind of lose that competitive edge at times in games that allows opponents to come back and try to take a game. The most pleasant surprise to the dismay of Heat fans, I'm sure, was Goran Dragic.
Yeah, he looked good.
He looked great. I was shocked, especially I didn't watch much preseason at all. I've been big on the NFL this year. I will admit, wasn't watching much preseason, but what I heard early on about Dragic wasn't good. I was hearing like he looked old, and when I tuned in today, I wasn't when I tuned in the other night, I wasn't sure what to expect, and Dragic looked rejuvenated. He looked like he was 10 years younger. He was hustling for just when ball carriers weren't paying attention. Yeah. I mean, him and Caruso, they might make a sneaky, deadly combo on the defensive end when the other team's trying to get in transition, and Caruso and Dragic aren't back yet. But Dragic was making some incredible shots. He was driving at the rim. He looked aggressive, and I think he's going to be a great fit with this Bulls team that's kind of going to be point guard by committee at times. When Lonzo Ball, for all we know, isn't with the roster right now. DeMar DeRozan, as many people keep saying, he can't do it again this year, he's going to decline. DeMar DeRozan picked up right where he left off, and it was his game. I mean, Jimmy Butler couldn't stop him. No player on that court could stop him. It was great to see. That's what the Bulls are going to need, especially with Zach LaVine being out. Ayo Dosunmu looked fantastic all game.
Looked good. Yeah.
My two biggest points of contention that we'll wait and see. Drummond, although much better than Tony Bradley minutes, didn't look too great, especially even around the rim on offense. He wasn't doing too much. He had some bad shots. So we'll wait and see with the Drummond signing. I have some hope, and we mostly need him for rebounding. That's what he's there for. But just when he had the ball in his hands, you never really knew what was going to happen. And Patrick Williams, I got to admit, I'm starting to lean towards he's a bust. We used the 4th overall pick on him, and in a game where LaVine was sitting out, I would have liked to have seen more aggression and more shots from Patrick Williams. It just kind of seems like talking about the last 2 seasons where he just doesn't seem to have that aggressive edge, and that's not going to make it. That's not going to fly in the NBA.
No, I'm with you. And I agree with you. Goran, I thought after last season, obviously he kind of played half the season with the Brooklyn Nets. I still think he had some basketball left in him. I thought it was a pretty good pickup there for your Chicago Bulls and him kind of filling in. Obviously, it's a need with Lonzo being out in that point guard position. So I thought he looked good in game one. We'll see how he kind of holds up as things go on. So, obviously he is a little bit older, but we'll kind of see. But this game, to me, it didn't mean too much in the grand scheme of things. It was a close game really throughout.
Hmm.
Really, it was that unconscious third quarter for DeRozan made the entire difference in the
The whole
game.
Bulls team, really.
Really, but yeah, and DeRozan, I think what he scored like 16, 18 points or something in that quarter. He was
It might have
unconscious.
been
Like
19 in the third. I
yeah,
think it was
he
19.
he was insane. He was unstoppable in that one. He obviously scored 37 points in 36 minutes. Vucevic, I got to give a little bit of credit. You didn't mention him. Grabbed 17 rebounds, which, as you mentioned, if he can become more of a rebounder, maybe pull back his scoring a little bit and start to get more boards, that's really going to help you guys moving forward too. So I think the 17 rebounds for your shorthanded Bulls really were key in that game as well. And I hate to be the guy that kind of rains on your parade, but really nothing happened in this game that worried me about Miami. Butler, he was okay. Sometimes it takes a little bit for Butler at the beginning of the season to really get revamped and back into the season. 24 points, 8 rebounds. He was all right. Hero, he got the start on that one, which I did say in my six man of the year. I thought it would be a possibility that he played himself into the starting lineup. So far, one game in, he was in there. I don't know if that's going to be a thing that they stick with. I still think they like Strus in that starting lineup just because of what he gives you a little bit more on the defensive side of things. But he was good, 23 points, 4 for 8 for the 3-point line. Strus, as I just mentioned, had a great game off the bench, 22 points. He was 5 of 7 from beyond the arc. So some of those guys started to get shooting from that 3-point line, which when it comes to Miami, obviously we know what they like to do. They like to play lockdown defense, and they have shooters on that team. It's just all about if those shooters can play defense along with doing it, which is kind of why we've seen the decline in Duncan Robinson. He only had 11 minutes in that game, where it's just, yeah, he's a laser. He can shoot threes, but on the defensive end, he's a liability, and everybody knows that. He's bigger than the position that he actually plays on the court. It's just hard for him to match up. So Strus, a little bit undersized, but he gives you more of the defensive end as far as that effort goes. So I think the Heat are going to be better defensively as time goes on. Spoelstra is going to get these guys definitely into shape. I have complete faith in that. I was encouraged to see some of the key offensive players get going for Miami because we know that's kind of been their struggle. That's kind of how they fell out of the playoffs last season, was on the offensive side of things. Miami's going to be just fine. I'm still a little skeptical of the injured Bulls. I just don't know if you guys are going to be able to how long you guys are going to be able to be carried by DeRozan. And if you need 37 points tonight from DeMar DeRozan, that's going to be problems. Obviously, there's going to be help on the way. Zach LaVine's going to be there as well. So to me, it was a good game one. Obviously you guys got the victory, a game that you shouldn't have won, coming in injured, coming into South Beach, and congratulations there. But nothing really in this game has got me worried really on either side. I still think about the same of both teams after that game one. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, when the Bulls take our talents to South Beach, what can we say? We try to walk out with a W every time.
yeah, I mean, a lot of people give Miami their best shot. Obviously, it's all right, but they're going to be ready. They're going to be revamped. Bam Adebayo. It's going to some of those guys. They play hard, but really to get into the groove of the season, it takes a little bit of time. We've seen that the year and year. Miami doesn't really start fast. There was that one year, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, where they started pretty quick. But other than that, they kind of just build up as the season goes on, and they're sitting there at that 4 seed, and then all of a sudden, a couple good weeks, and you're like, how did they get to the 1 seed? Like that's kind of what they do throughout the season. So, moving on from our first game, our first matchup, I should say, of the season of our two teams, let's move on to a pick that we both had, and that is our Rookie of the Year pick. We were both on Paolo Banchero. And one game into the season, his campaign got off to a fantastic start. He put up 27 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists in his opening loss to the Pistons. Jarrett, what did you make of Banchero's debut?
Well, this game definitely reaffirmed my confidence in my Rookie of the Year pick. I'm basically locking that in that Paolo is going to be Rookie of the Year. I mean, he's the third player to ever average or to
25,
put
5, and
up
5 in his
25,
debut. Yeah.
5, and
First
5
one
in the
since
NBA
LeBron.
debut.
Yeah.
First one since LeBron, and you know who was the first to do it? Kareem.
Yep.
So that's like two players in the top three of all time. I'm not saying Paolo's going to join them up there, but Paolo, I think he's going to be just fine in his NBA career. He's going to be a good player. He looked confident on both ends of the floor. He made big plays. Even when he would like have a turnover, like he didn't like kind of put his head down or kind of give up on the play. Uh, Going like across half court, he got the ball picked off of him and he ran back down and he blocked it off the backboard. That man hustles. Whether he makes a mistake, he's going to make up for it. And that's what you want to see out of a rookie, especially coming right out of the gate. I loved what I saw from him.
No, absolutely. I followed him in college too. I thought he was a really good player coming into this season. Obviously, we know kind of the hype that was surrounding Chet Holmgren and those other guys at the top. But I think Banchero, to me, I think I said he should have been the number one overall pick coming into this season. He's fantastic in this one. 11 for 18 shooting, almost had that double double. It was encouraging to see him be able to put up those numbers without needing to hit a lot of jump shots because he got to the rim really time and time again. He collected a couple posters as well while doing it. In college, his jump shot was a little shaky at times. And I think his consistency, he needs to improve on it. And I think he will down there in Orlando. And I think I kind of like that he didn't attempt a 3-pointer in this game at all. He kind of just knew what was working for him, knew the role that they needed him to do in that. And he just kind of played like more of a traditional power forward. And he was dominant in this game. And he has the size in order to do that and the athleticism in order to do that. So I think moving forward, he's going to continue to grow. This was just one game, but it was a great showing. But this was the perfect recipe for the Magic this season. You know, Banchero looked great. Wagner had 20. He had 25 and 4. Jalen Suggs scored 21. Wendell Carter had a double-double, and they lost a close game. That's exactly what they're trying to do. You know, they're not – I think they're a little bit too talented to be in the full-blown tank for Scoot or Victor mode. But I don't think they should
Mm-hmm.
be in the business of winning basketball games this year. I think the more they lose and they show the potential growth of their potential star players, the better it's going to look for the Magic. So I think this was the perfect recipe. They fought hard. They got it down to the end. A lot of their hopeful stars looked really good in this one, and they ended up losing. So I think it's exactly what they're looking for.
I would disagree on the idea that the Magic should lose games. I think this team should be competing just to kind of see what they have, especially with younger players and a younger roster like this. You kind of want them to kind of have some semblance of success to where that kind of loser mentality doesn't sink in, which seems to have been a
Like get it
problem for
out the
the
building.
Orlando Magic. Because I think personally, Bankero and Wagner could be like a duo of part of that young core that the Magic can really build around for the future. Like those two guys could be good enough one day to where they could headline a successful NBA team. Um, I like what I saw from the whole team all around. Even it was encouraging seeing Suggs have a decent game too.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
because we're still kind of out on Suggs on like what's he going to be in the NBA as his rookie season was underwhelming.
yeah,
But yeah, I'm super excited for this Magic team.
yeah. I think they
Although
like. Oh, sorry. Go
I was gonna say I'm not too excited though because they are in the Eastern Conference. So
ahead.
just wait till my Bulls like get a championship before y'all blow up or
Okay.
something. Like I don't want them. I don't want them passing
Yeah.
us up.
I think they like more. I think they like Cole Anthony more than they like Jalen Suggs. But hey, if they're both going to become really talented players in this league, they'll definitely take that. But we have to move on now to something that I kind of just have to get off my chest. So
Oh, I can't wait.
anybody who's been following along knows I'm a Miami Heat fan first and foremost, but I'm a LeBron fan, and I would also like to see LeBron obviously contend as he's kind of in the twilight years of his career. I know he signed that extension for at least a couple more years. We'll see how long he hangs on, but I have to kind of put things into perspective of what we've seen from the Lakers so far this season. A lot of people are going to look at them being 0-2. They're immediately going to start to blame Russ or LeBron or even Ham or Palinka, and I'm going to tell you what's really going on with this team from someone who's watched every single second of Lakers basketball so far this year. We know that Russell Westbrook doesn't fit on this roster at this point in his career. I'm not buying the whole coming off the bench helped hurt his hamstring either. That doesn't make any sense to me where he says like, yeah, you know, that might have played a factor why my hamstring's not feeling well because I'm just not used to coming off the bench. But also I don't think him coming off the bench is a solution on this roster either. All Westbrook slander aside, there's two major problems with this Lakers roster. Number one, that's the lack of an NBA level backcourt play. And number two, the lack of shooting. In game one, the starting backcourt of Westbrook and Beverly combined to shoot 8 for 18 from the field, 2 for 8 from the arc, and total of 5 assists from your starting backcourt. In game two, they got even worse. They shot a combined 1 of 18 shooting, 1 of 12 from beyond the arc, and again, 5 assists from your starting backcourt. They have statistically the worst starting backcourt in the NBA to start this season at 0-2. After game one, LeBron was honest about his roster, saying that it's obvious the team does not have shooters on it. He couldn't be more right. Game one, this team shot 1 of 40 from the arc. That's 25%. Game two got even worse. 9 of 45, 20%. The Lakers as a team have made 24 of 101 jump shots so far this season. They're shooting less than 25% from jump shots as a team. That's abysmal. That's awful. The crazy thing is, there have been times late in both these games where the defense has created runs where they had a chance to win both these games. And some people are going to look at the box score and they say, I think they ended up losing by like 14 to the Warriors. That was a close game because the defense of the Lakers all of a sudden clamped down and they just went on this run where the defense was creating offense. I know that they're trying to wait to see what could become available in a Westbrook trade. And I know it's not the perfect fix of the roster because there is no perfect fix. There's no magic button that's going to get them over the edge. But watching these last two games, I couldn't help but think Buddy Hield and Miles Turner could help this roster right now. And I know it's not going to just immediately make them a contender because nothing is going to. But Buddy Hield is a laser, could help. Obviously, it's only one guy. And another thing they could use is some backup center play, rebounding, Miles Turner, defense that it could do. All I know is something has to change because this roster construction is an absolute joke. So I know it's quick to blame Russell Westbrook, and he has not been great by any stretch of the imagination. But really, I blame the front office more than anything because they looked at this roster, they looked at what they had, and they said, no, that's good enough. We're going to run with that for this season, or at least to start the season. So I think we have to put things in perspective with the Lakers, and that's just what I've seen from watching both their games so far.
I don't think I could have said that any better. I don't really think I have anything to add to that.
Yeah.
It's just that Beverly Westbrook combo. It's not going to hold up. It doesn't make sense. And in my personal opinion, Patrick Beverly has too big of a role on this team. I don't think he fits well with teams where he's given too much to do because he just can't live up to that. He's much more suited for a complementary role as kind of like a locker room energy guy. Maybe comes off the bench and gives you a shot here or there, like we saw at times with the
backup
Timberwolves.
Point guard. Absolutely.
Yeah, he has to be in a backup role. I'm not even talking like 6-man responsibility. Like sweet spot of like 7, 8, 9, 10, like around there. But no, he's first off the bench for the Lakers, and that it's just a recipe for disaster.
Well, yeah, he hasn't even been first off the bench. He's been starting right alongside.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's what I'm like first off the bench in the starting role.
No, exactly. It's been abysmal, and the fact that they're rolling out with this, and let's be honest, they're missing Dennis Schroeder. He provides more problems too. That's just going to be a logjam at point guard where all three of those guys want to play with the ball in their hands. And the Lakers are better off if no of those three guys have the ball in their hands because you want LeBron to be your de facto point guard.
Like and Kendrick Nunn hasn't done much either.
Kendrick Nunn has been on the floor, but he's been non-existent. We have not seen him. Who's been great is Lonnie Walker. Lonnie Walker looked great last night against the Clippers. He had a pretty good game one. And if he can if he is your whatever you give me is great. If you can average 12 points a game and sometimes you give me 24, that you can win with that. Lonnie Walker, he's an athletic wing guy who's had a couple good seasons over there in San Antonio. But this roster just makes no sense. You have no shooters whatsoever. There's that one guy, I don't even know his name, Ryan or something like that.
Matt Ryan.
He was driving Uber months ago, and he made the roster because he could shoot a little bit. That's how desperate they are for shooters. It's ridiculous.
It's a G League roster. It's a G League roster headlined by two NBA superstars, if you still want to call Anthony Davis one, and the corpse that is Russell Westbrook and then Pat Beverly.
Absolutely.
That's all it is. It's a G League roster.
It is ridiculous that, and LeBron came out after game one, said, it's not like we have a bunch of three-point shooters on our team. We know that. Came out after game two and said, you know what? I've made my thoughts clear. I'm not going to harp on it. That's his way of kind of saying it with a smile. Hey, I don't care who it is. I don't care if we can only get one more, if it's just Buddy Hield, just someone. because they're getting open looks. And like LeBron said after game one, he thinks they're getting a lot of open looks because the other teams are looking at this roster and saying, we'll give them open looks because they're going to miss them. And that's a problem. And they've been in both these games. The Clippers game last night held it tight to the end. And that defense, I think, under Darvin Ham, has looked good so far. Obviously, they played two of the most, I mean, probably going to be two of the best offenses in the league so far with the Warriors and the Clippers. So, the numbers might be a little bit of inflated, but I think the defense has looked good. I think they're buying in to what Darvin Ham is trying to teach them and trying to get them to play for. They just don't have the firepower. They don't have anybody in the offensive side that threatens you from that 3-point line. Like there's no one. There's absolutely no one you're getting out. LeBron is an okay, sometimes to good 3-point shooter. He's not a sniper. Like it's not what he is. He's the best 3-point shooter.
He's going to need to be,
and that's the problem.
Yeah, it's a wonder he signed an extension this summer with the roster looking like this.
Yeah. Well, I was surprised to see it too. I thought he'd hold their feet to the fire and just kind of had that free agency looming over the top of him. Maybe he was hoping that his commitment might make them more willing to move off those future draft picks and to try to make it work. And I just think you're giving Rob Pelinka too much credit because I think he got his position, obviously, because his relationship with Kobe, and he's done nothing to really prove that he knows how to build a roster in the NBA.
And because Magic wanted to leave after 1 year.
Because he's not going to be there. And
otherwise, Magic would either still be the GM or they'd probably both be fired by now.
Absolutely. That's just what I've seen from the Lakers so far this season. I know everybody in the internet's just going to be like, get Russ out of there. And I agree with you. He doesn't fit on this roster, but there's more to it than just Russ. It's not all Russ's fault. We know what Russ is at this point in his career, and I'm not going to continue to just slam the man for, going out there and he plays hard, and that's what everybody can say about him. He's going to get every time he's on the court, he's going to play hard. It's just every time I see him go up for a jump shot, I am wincing at home watching him take that jump shot because I know it's not going in. I know the defenses know it's not going in either. So it's a problem. I don't have the solution. Maybe the Hield Turner trade, that's one we've heard about for it seems like 3 years now. But if something like that happens, it could help because Hield, we know, is one of the best shooters in the NBA, one of the spot-up shooters. And I think Turner could help on the defensive end as well. So I think it could help them. But I just don't see the solution on this roster. I don't think anybody does. They've just done a terrible job putting it together. But moving on from my Lakers rant, man, I have to poke some fun at the Denver Nuggets a little bit. I know it's only one game, but they were at full strength. They got Michael Porter and Jamal Murray back. And, they've had, the guy on the roster who I've heard over the last few years is the best player in the league. And they lost handily to a team that's actively trying to lose in Utah. So I'm just wondering kind of what you saw with the Denver Nuggets there in game one.
Well, I tuned into this game a little. I believe I was still finishing up. And I saw the score. And I'm like, because I was flipping through like what League Pass games I want to watch. I'm like, yeah, okay, this looks awful, but I have to see why the Nuggets are losing by so much. So I turned the game on, and the only thought that crossed my mind, the only possible explanation of why Denver was down by so much that made sense is, it's 1998. I mean, that could be the only reason. Like, look at those Jazz jerseys. They look great. Why don't they wear those all year long? Because there's no reason the Denver Nuggets should be down in any way, shape, or form to that Jazz team. That Jazz team is awful. It's, aside from Lauri Markkanen and Colin Sexton and Mike Conley, it's a G League roster too. I mean, I hate to reuse that.
And Sexton's coming off the bench. Sexton didn't even start that game.
The team is meant to be very bad. That's kind of the desired effect for what Danny Ainge wants, because let's be honest, they're going for Wembanyama, which just because it's the Utah Jazz, I hope he doesn't land there. Like San Antonio would be my preferred destination. Give Pop something to coach in his twilight years in the NBA. But yeah, no, it was just, I have nothing else to say. It was awful.
Dude, I love to see it. And what I love too is Sexton winding up and blowing right by the back-to-back MVP. Like he's not even worried, not a care in the world.
He was scraping his foot on the court like he was like a bull ready to charge.
Winding up. I loved it.
Awesome.
And Colin Sexton's a nice player. He hasn't done anything in this league. And he's just like back-to-back MVP, be damned. I don't care. I'm going right at you. I'm blowing right by you, and I'm scoring a layup. And exactly what he did. I didn't have much to take on this one, but we've heard nonstop over the last 2 years. Just wait until they're healthy. Wait until they're at full strength. Well, they are, and it wasn't a great game one. So for the time being, I mean, they've had a lot of high hopes, but we'll see. I mean, I'm sure they'll still be a good team. This was just one game, and obviously
Mhm.
sometimes this team can sneak up, but Utah is actively trying to lose. Like, just you could play bad and still get a victory over that team, but to lose to Utah, I'm just like, man, got to be better than that, man. But moving on to another team, from a team that looked really bad in Denver to a team that looked really good. And let's just talk about a little bit the New Orleans Pelicans. They looked great in their opening game against Brooklyn. They grabbed that 130-108 win against the Nets. So, Jared, what did you make about the start of their season?
It's a great start to the season. You love seeing Zion have a great game right out of the gate. 25 points.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you want to see out of a guy that hasn't played a game in the year. And it was going to be sort of a big question mark coming into the season. I feel like most people's fears have kind of been alleviated because I think we have that all NBA, all star level player in Zion Williamson back. And that's what the game needs because Zion Williamson is part of the future of this league. And the NBA needs Zion to be great, and I don't think we'll have to worry about that. Now, this game had me wondering, why did I have the Pelicans as low as I had them on my
It had
preseason
me thinking that
predictions?
too.
And that I think I said in our show last week that I was willing to admit this is probably the one where they're probably going to be much higher than this at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And they they did they I can't even talk. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
put
I'm
together my
with you.
thoughts. It was such a great game, especially against a really good team in Brooklyn with Kevin Durant,
Well,
Ben Simmons, and
we
Kyrie
think is
Irving.
going to be
Well,
a really good team. We'll
I'm just
see.
thinking any team with Kevin Durant has to be a good team. He's too good
Absolutely.
to not lift his team up a bit. But that was a bad showing for Brooklyn. You hope for their sake that that is going to be an anomaly in their season. Especially with all the questions from the last offseason with like the players wanting Steve Nash fired and stuff like that. Basically, a mutiny in the public eye. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens with Brooklyn going forward. But getting back to the Pelicans, great showing for them to start, and I'm excited to watch this team. They're going to be probably my league pass team of the year.
Yeah, dude, it was a perfect showing for them in game one. And really to me, the biggest story was finally being able to see Zion, Ingram, and McCollum. They're gonna work together as a trio. That's kind of what the question answered for me. It looked good on paper, coming into this after they made that trade for McCollum last season. But now seeing the product on court, I think it's gonna work. Like I just think the way that they play the game, McCollum, he's not a traditional point guard, he's more of that two guard, but he can obviously light it up a little bit. Zion kind of just plays that dominant down in the paint role. Ingram has been really good. His jump shot has gotten more and more consistent year after year. I think they're going to want to slow Zion down just a little bit more at the beginning of the season. He played 30 minutes. I'd like to see that a little bit closer to 28, maybe even 26, just to kind of start the year to bring him back up to speed, ease him into things before you kind of, start to see him play 34, 36 minutes. But when he's on the court, he's proven to be a generational talent. Ingram, he was great, 28 points. McCollum added that 21. They forced Simmons to foul out in this game. They held Kyrie to 15 points, 0 for 6 from the arc. So we saw that defense too of the Pelicans really clamp down on a lot of tough scores. So I'm not going to overreact to game one, but I very well, just like you might have underrated the Pelicans already, they could be really good in the West this year. So they're definitely going to be a team I'm going to be keeping my eye on as well as we move forward into this season. So I don't know about you, but the Pelicans, like you said, it's going to be a team I'm going to be watching as things move forward. So let's move on here to our final segment on the TM Up podcast. And that is, of course, Tee 'em Up. So now for a lot of the teams, a couple games into the season, we're starting to get some content built back up for the NBA. So after looking around the landscape, who gets your technical foul this week for Tee 'em Up?
I'm giving my technical foul, and you might be a little surprised, but maybe not. I'm giving my technical foul to the Chicago Bulls and
Okay.
Zach LaVine. We were told this summer that Zach LaVine underwent surgery on his knee, and everything was fine. He said that the procedure cleaned up everything that was going on. His knee's all set to go. He felt comfortable, and he's going to be ready for the season. And then he was playing in preseason games, and then we get to the regular season and he's a no-show for game 1 and he's not playing tonight
Yeah.
or I'm sorry, tomorrow. I might be getting my schedule mixed up. Whenever they play the Washington Wizards for the home opener, he's not going to be there. He's not going to be on the floor. He's not going to be playing.
Yeah.
Why that is, I don't know. Is his knee really fixed? I don't know. We don't know anything because Zach LaVine's telling us like, oh, it's just to manage my knee. Why are you managing your knee at the start of the season? You don't miss season openers for pain management if you're healthy.
Yeah.
So how healthy is Zach LaVine's knee? Is this something we're going to have to worry about? What are the Chicago Bulls not telling us? It's because Billy Donovan said, yeah, it's like his knee's not feeling good. So we don't know what's going, which way's up. Starting to be a little worrisome in Chicago. I mean, this is one of the big things of why the Bulls were getting dropped so low by everyone else in their preseason predictions. So we'll just have to wait and see. I'm cautiously optimistic just because I am so naive when it comes to just the injury. It's all going to work out, even though I should know better because I've been a Bulls fan for the last decade plus.
Yeah, you should know all about guard knee injuries. That should be
high
on your radar. I mean,
also, mini tee up. I'm teeing up the New York Knicks because Derrick Rose only played 12 minutes the other night. If you're gonna play him 12 minutes, send him home.
Just for him.
Send him home. We'll play him. We'll play him.
You could use him too.
He'll take up those. Yeah, he'll take up those Kobe White minutes. I don't want to see that man play basketball in the Bulls jersey ever again. I want to see Derrick Rose in the Bulls jersey again. Bring back the number 1 and then retire that shit.
There you go, man.
Team up the Bulls and then shots fired at the Knicks too.
I like it. This who's getting my technical foul this week is a story that kind of not really a story, but it's just something that kind of went underrated, and you probably haven't even heard about it. I'm teeing up Michael Porter Jr. And I'm not sure if you saw this or not, but in an interview with Bleacher Report, Porter said that he is definitely, quote, definitely a top 10 shooter in the world. Like, look, Porter, you're a very talented player. I was really high on you coming into the league. I thought, we didn't see a lot from him in college, but the talent is there. He's going to be great if he can stay healthy. So far in your career, you've been paid more for your talent than your production. In your career, you've averaged 1.9 3-pointers made on 4.6 attempts per game. Pretty good. I mean, it's 42%. You'll take that from a 3-point shooter. It's not terrible, but before you go claiming you're a top 10 shooter in the league, back it up. Like, your percentage is nice, but you have to be on the court. You got to be knocking down these shots. You got to be playing in big games. You got to be putting up big numbers. So to sit there and say, yeah, I'm definitely a top 10 shooter in the world, when there's so many guys who maybe their percentage is a little bit lower than you as far as their shooting, but they're giving me 70 games a year. They're giving me 80 games a year. They're playing in the playoffs. They're knocking down big shots. I don't care if they shoot a little bit less percentage. I'm going to take those guys. I'm going to take Seth Curry over you. Like, I'm going to take, heck, I'm biased. I'll take the health and the production and the shooting of Max Strus over you right now. Strus is a laser. Like, don't get me wrong.
He scares me.
Absolutely. You go out there and put together a couple of healthy seasons. You continue your trajectory you could easily be top 10, but you don't have that locked up quite yet, my man. You really don't, Michael Porter. And I get it. You got to have the confidence in this league, because if you don't have the confidence, you end up like Ben Simmons. And I get that. You got to go out there. You got to continue to shoot your shot. And when you're on the court, you're a threat from that 3-point line. But you got to start to rack up these stats, man. You got to start to put together season after season to say, I am just one of the top 10 shooters in the world, because you're not there yet. You're not there yet. So technical foul on my end to Michael Porter. I think he deserves it. And I'm surprised it hasn't been a little bit more out there. It was just an interview I saw just a couple of days ago from Michael Porter. So, in game 1, he had 15 points and he made 2 of 5. So he was, shooting 40%. So a little bit, that's not bad, but the volume isn't there. I want to see more from Michael Porter Jr. before you start declaring yourself a top 10 shooter in this league. So that's all we have this week for the TMO podcast. I want to thank you guys all for joining us and following along as we get started here in this long NBA season. But it seems long, but things really sneak up on us, because before you know it, we'll be at the trade deadline. And before you know it, we will be at the playoffs once again. So thank you guys all for joining us and listening. We will catch you guys next time on the TMO podcast.
And remember, we took our talents to South Beach and won.
That's just one game.